check, 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 1, 2, check, 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 1, 2. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Johnny? Welcome to Top Shelf Fandom. My name's Justin Thomas, your host. We're talking about Raised by Wolves, episodes 6 through 7 on Top Shelf Fandom. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to support creativity. Thank you to all my lovely Patreons that were listed in the information below. Let me welcome back the lovely and the wonderful Johnny Be Crazy from the House of Conqueror.
Hey Justin, what's going on? It's good to be back somewhat. Need to come on this panel because I'm really digging this show, man, and I'm liking your coverage of it, and I'm excited to be part of it. Lots of things have went down, lots of setups here. Maybe some reveals, in my opinion. There's some possible red herrings being thrown out there, but I'm excited to get into it, man.
Absolutely. And yeah, let me just let me do a check 1, 2 on the actual stream. Let's make sure Bruce Seymour, one of our fantastic Patreons. You don't need to do that, Bruce. He is what I call a bigwig in the Patreon. We'll try to get a better name, but it's actually quite appropriate because he is one of the top donators in him and Amberlyn, and just somebody that actually was the one that recommended this show to me, and it was something I was already interested in. And yeah, me and Bruce have been talking on the side about this a lot. So yeah, John Taylor's in the group. Lady Starfall, love this show, and so need of a breakdown of these episodes. Waiting Top Shelf Fandom, we shall not disappoint. OTDA, the omniscient curator, the omniscient moderator, and we have, of course, you, Johnny. So yes, thank you guys so much. And I actually think I just want to get your first time insight publicly, Johnny, like on a rating from 1 to 10. And I know it's kind of a bitch thing to do to you, but like put it on a Westworld scale. Like, what do you give this season so far? What do you give Raised by Wolves so far? 10 being the best, 1 being the least.
So far,
Peter Griffin, what up?
I would say that I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to. I hate doing this. Thank you, Justin.
No, I know it was a bad thing.
I'll give it a 9 for now. We don't know how this is gonna wrap up. I mean, I have some ideas, but I'm really loving what I've seen so far. I love Ridley Scott. I love Blade Runner. I love Alien. I love all that cool space shit, and and we also get the Westworld feel as well, because we get to question the nature of consciousness, and we've been talking about that for years now. So
Absolutely.
another show that tackles it in a different manner, and we all know as people, if we make it, we're gonna have to find another planet at some point. So
Kepler 22, baby, we're coming. Get ready for us. We're some parasitic bunch. Yeah, no, and we got Axel Foley in the chat. You're the best. No, yeah, baby, you're the best. Peter Griffin in the whole crew. So, Johnny, yes, one. Well, a good way to put it, my friend. We've been on this path of consciousness, sentience, the so-called sentience that we claimed for some time now. We've been robot android sympathizers and realists, non-simulation, non-cuck takers since the beginning of time. When things get too confusing, we don't say it's a simulation, baby. We say accept that there's answers that we cannot answer, or questions we cannot answer at the time, and let's go from there and say what is it that they're asking and what is the benefit of those questions. So I think we're dealing with a lot of that here. I think 6 and 7, adding to your 9, I would say that 6 and 7, and it might be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to say the best damn episodes I've seen so far this season. A lot of dynamic change between character, meaning the actual development between like allegiances and people crossing over. Not just Marcus, not just Mother. We're talking about Sue. We're talking about Paul. We're talking about Campion. We're talking about the whole bunch. But let's try to start at the beginning, as linear as Top Shelf Fandom can go. And I'm happy you're here with me, my brother. And let's talk about from the beginning. Now, what I've noticed about this series is it's quite across the board a over the top, over the table, overt series. Not really cloaked or veiled in a lot of allegory or metaphor, right? Like kind of like some pretty simplistic stuff that is not all that simplistic. Like I've said this about Westworld. Like, yeah, questions that sound pretty easy, but they're not really all that easy. They're simplistic questions, but the answers aren't so simplistic. Like, let's start off with that Campion wants to keep eating fungus, but Paul, he wants to eat meat, but he doesn't want to kill. And we were talking about this beforehand, a little bit of insider's knowledge here. And I'm like, listen, I just ate some meat, Taco Bell. So there's a chance that it wasn't actually meat, to be fair. But, we all want to do these things, but we don't really want to have to actually slaughter an animal. We don't have to want to go through all these stages. Like all these pragmatic, practical things in life that are tied to spirituality as well. Like the certain meats, the killing of things. Do things have soul? Do trees have souls? Campion is becoming, I don't know what doctrine he subscribed to, but he thinks everything has a soul at this point.
Atheist.
There you go. Yeah, but so he doesn't want to eat things or kill things, but he wants to eat things that taste good, like meat. So I think these are practical things. These are human things we face, but we're so separated from, right?
Yeah, Campion has been more used to living within or less than his means, whereas Paul has kind of lived in a little bit of luxury of life, dare I say, and he's had access to a lot more things. But there's another argument for Paul is proteins, amino acids, really critical things you need for brain food and muscles, and especially in a survival type situation. It's a little short-sighted to go with just one food source or not try to get the most out of the calories you burn. You want to get the most out of that because it's a do or die situation. And in this sense, this Campion's going a little more with his heart, and I think Paul's using his brain a little more. Of course, it'll taste better, but I think he's showing to be a little smarter here, and he may be a little smarter than Campion, because we'll talk about the puzzle in a minute. But
yeah, which I did the puzzle actually, and I failed. I did it correctly the first time on Cam, and I literally, this is my first step in not over researching things, surprisingly enough, if you guys don't believe me. But this was like my first step. I'm sick of like over analyzing things. I'm gonna look at this puzzle because I recognized it from my DJ years. So it's called the matchstick game. You can only have 3 moves. You gotta make 3 squares. So I looked at it as deconstructing the status quo. It's not quite that, but yeah, we'll get to it. But we do come to realize that Paul has been in this like cryogenic stage in which he is able to advance his mind, but not his body. So for all intents and purposes, Paul is quite a bit older than Campion. Well, but I think wants and needs come into this. We see this in 2 different, and we're going to get to the question there, Lady Starfall. We see you because we all want to know what is happening with those whispers that Caleb / Marcus, and I'm going to put another / Space Ragnar, is telling not to kill Mother. We'll get to what we think is happening there, both of our, theses. But to start at the beginning here, I think that we see a lot of pragmatic, practical problems. We see the want to eat meat. The need is to kill, do it. So our wants and needs are different. But also Mother says that she doesn't have wants and needs. She's a service. But that's also
Mother's
inaccurate.
lying to herself, Justin.
She's lying right there within that statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her want is to be of service. Her need is to be of service. So she does have a want.
For the colony to succeed.
Prosper.
But I think the big thing is that she's definitely going to have to struggle with, does it have to be her way or the highway? Does it have to be an atheist colony?
Yeah, and what is her way, right? So she has these wants and these needs that are just outside of her parameters within her programming. But also, if we look at when she actually goes into the simulation, which they quickly figure out, hey, this necromancer is going and plugging herself in for about 2 hours a day with Father. Very relevant, very realistic scenario dynamic between a husband and wife, unfortunately. Little bit of yeah, it is true. They tend to be a little bit overcritical, but it is something that happens. They fight and they're untrusting of each other, and we see this quite a bit. We see this within the first episode. We're talking about episode 6, We're talking about when we see them fighting and them being they tend to have very human, as we would describe them, emotions and a lot of agency within their programming, but then they tend to act like it's nothing after the fact, which I think we could all agree we relate to, whether we are a parent or not, or you've at least been a child and you've heard do as I say, not as I do, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that and human beings always are struggling with keeping their emotions in control because we know that too much emotion can keep you from thinking clearly. But
Hmm.
this seems to be almost the opposite. They're trying to get emotion rather than being so logical all the time. Like they're fighting with it themselves. Um, and yeah, I think it's a magnificent thing to kind of see in reverse. And I think Campion Senior, I think he's responsible for their type of empathy. Uh, I mean, the other android we saw, like I was saying earlier, before we went live, he didn't really seem to have much personality or anything, but you could see it come out in them having to nurture human children, having
Mm.
become the nurturers or the mother. I think it's really symbolic for the show, and also for questions about what does it mean to make you sentient? How do you develop emotion in AI? Could this be a way through giving it a connection with the beings? I don't know.
No, no,
It's
no, no. I
a
love that. I love that sentiment. And let's
mm,
actually, because the point of live stream is to kick it over to, you guys, be immersive, and do what we've been programmed to do. But yeah, no, that is true. Like, we all like to think that we have so much agency over the way in which we act, right? Like, that we have complete control, but we've all been pre-programmed. We've all been, it's nature versus nurture, baby. All nature versus nurture. And I think we see this a lot. And I think we see a lot of, I think the most human of behaviors is lying to oneself, unfortunately.
mhm.
As soon
Hey,
as
we
you
wouldn't
see,
survive without it.
oh my goodness, God gave us the ability, or something gave us ability. I'm agnostic for the record. Something gave us the ability to be to be conscious. And then something to give us the the pro to that is being self-aware. The con to that is being, or conscious is the pro, being self-aware is the con. Like, you're able to look in the mirror and question what you do. So
I
yeah,
also think humans are never ever satisfied.
no,
Have you ever got what you wanted and not wanted more?
no,
That doesn't happen. And it's a curse, right? I mean, these are things that
a content
that's something
man
the
is a
androids
dead
don't have to
man.
deal with, right? How much
Exactly.
more do you want? They
So
need
we
to think,
see we
right?
see we see from Lady Starfall. Didn't it take only 13 years to get to the planet? I have so many questions. Sorry, no, no, that's what this is about. Yes, it took 12 to 13 years within the actual canon which we have for this season. Is that, yes? It took 12 to 13 years. So you could imagine that Paul should be about 12 years older mentally than Campion, and I solved that in about 4 minutes. So that puts me just like above. I'm just not dumb. Yeah, let's just put it. I did it on camera. Yeah, I got it right away. So there you go. Yeah. Because what Campion got it in what, like 23 minutes, but he's a kid. And then Paul got it in like 23 seconds. So sounds like a selling point for cocaine. Want to know what, OTDA? If anything's a selling point
That's
for
good.
cocaine, it's life. Life is a selling point for
Uh,
cocaine. No,
Peter
no.
Griffin, I did tell Justin earlier that I thought exactly your words that Paul was 40 as well.
Yeah.
That's fine. I find it creepy. Finded it. Is that a word? Can you say finded it? It's a word down in the South, right? I finded it. Pretty
Oh,
creepy.
let's not lower this channel. I mean, this
No,
channel's, not
it's
the
bad.
best, but
I'm sorry.
let's not take it down to
Didn't mean to.
southern standards.
All right.
I'm in the South though, and I'm ashamed. Oh, see that? See, that is that humiliation in which you all should feel. So, but yes, so you have a competition within Campion and within Paul. About it, and let's move on from there. They tend to separate. Now, Campion is quite aggressive in these episodes. Now, Johnny, one of the major critiques of episode 6 is that these are unfounded characteristics within Campion. I tend to disagree.
Whoa.
I don't think so.
Okay, so the only mother and father he's ever known have been attacked,
Mm-hmm.
ridiculed, put
Mm-hmm.
down, and his whole existence has been called into question by some outsiders that he doesn't know as anything but the enemy. How would you expect him to feel? The fact that he hasn't killed someone yet is a good thing, a good step in the right. I think Campion is a really good kid, but and I think the good thing about him is his fight, is that he has that
Yes.
heart of a lion, and I think that's going to be detrimental later because something that Paul I think realizes he was getting one over on him. Paul knows what he's doing. He's being really slick with a lot of things. He's very smart and slick, and he's using that time advantage in the AI world to his advantage. He's not letting anybody know about it. You know, he didn't cheat, possibly, except he's a lot older than he looks. So um,
Would you agree
he
that
he
Paul's
wants
like
to still
the
be Campion's friend, though.
yeah,
You
oh yeah,
know,
absolutely. Would you agree that Paul's kind of a example of what we would maybe refer to as like those rich kids that like went away to university or had maybe more,
he's a little
advanced.
too calm and perfect, right?
Yeah,
There's
like
something
he
there.
a little bit of like cuz Campion takes them all in, but essentially he's taking them all into the orphanage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they can live good within the orphanage, but they all are kind of more privileged than he is in a sense of institution and society. So I think that there is a down and out and objectified aspect within that. But I also
Well,
don't
atheists aren't
dislike
seen as
Paul.
humans to them as well, right?
Absolutely. And one of what I don't get, and I want to get your take on this, and I want the chat's take on this. Guys, I hear a lot of bitching and moaning about these child actors. First off, I'll think Tempest is solid. Tally, except for which we will get to, Lady Starfall. We spoiler alert, we're not exactly sure how she's appearing, but we have our theories, and those will be at the end. I think she's a good actress. And I think that Paul and Campion are fantastic. I actually think, and I can't remember his name because I hate him so much, but the gentleman in which screws over father that comes from the hierarchy. You know who I'm talking about. He's the one that says he's on the top of the silo.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to pull up IMDb
Oh my
here.
God.
This is what you do to us,
Is it
HBO
Dorian?
Max. Us poor content creators have to learn all these names, when we're trying to actually like get the story
I
cycle.
think it's Dorian.
Yeah, it's Dorian or
No,
something like
it's Hunter. It's
Hunter.
Hunter. It's
Hunter.
Hunter.
There we
That's
go.
it. I found it.
He's a dick. He's annoying, but he's playing a dick. So I guess it kind of makes sense. I actually don't have an issue. Do you have an issue with the child acting? I think Paul is still endearing. Like I have a certain amount of empathy, a large amount, if not sympathy, with Paul.
I mean, and I don't know if they're trying to play the route of Paul being on the spectrum or anything. I don't know if they're going anywhere with that, but he's really quiet. And that's what I would say. He doesn't show much emotion or character, but I don't know what they're trying to do with him. I think they're still fleshing him out, and you're only getting to see the surface level with Paul right now. You're
Okay.
not to get to see any inside with him. I think there's going to be something that they come up with for him. Eh, there's going to be some kind of reveal of his motivations because there doesn't seem to be anything other than I guess he wants to please his father,
But
which
that
I think he already knows that's not his father. So it's this weird because he already had suspicions about him when he first saw them because
Oh,
they
I don't
acted
agree.
really
Oh,
weird.
that's interesting. I'm not discrediting it, but
You know,
that's a
because he said you never have given me a hug. Why are you giving me a
yeah,
hug?
but
When they
they
first get in
said
the
in the simulation within the hyper chamber, the cryogenic chamber, they do mention that people would be and things would be a little bit off. I don't, in my opinion, and I'm not disrespecting yours, it's the contrary point here. I'm saying that they do kind of write that off towards that. And I do see him as being a little bit of introvert, right? Like he is, like you're saying,
Mhm.
he's not as social, but also he's out of his realm of comfort. He's definitely out of his comfort zone throughout this whole time. So, like I think there's a lot of humanistic and empathetic actions in which he takes. And I'm a fan of Paul. I'm a fan of Paul, and I think Sue's a fan of Paul, and we'll get to that later. But that's an interesting point because, hey, I've been around a million times before, so who's not to say that he is not on to Caleb too, right? Marcus. So
Dante S in the chat brings up a good point. I think the actors are fine. However, they still act like kids when they should be more mature. Uh, in the AI, I'm assuming that they just let them do kid things the whole time. How would you grow and mature? That's a really good question. Should they have acted more grown up? Did they, push them through high school? Did they just let them extend their childlike behavior? I guess
what?
it depends on what the adults let them do.
And I
Would it
think,
be? I
yeah,
don't know.
no. I think that'd be correct because what Dante is saying is exactly what we've seen actually played out. Is that he is not playing with other kids. That's one of Marcus's and Sue's concern. They said, "Why aren't you playing with other kids?" Paul says, "They don't like me, right? They don't." So he's an introvert, is what I'm saying. So his intellect is higher, but his sociability, like his actual ability to socialize, is
Yeah,
hindered.
he's almost a savant.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I don't want to get in, my view on the whole spectrum thing. But
I
you
mean,
get no.
it's
I'm in
okay.
line with you though.
Uh,
Yeah, yes, no, yeah. For what most would consider being on the spectrum, I think that Paul fits that model for sure. I don't think that I don't think that there's anything wrong with him. I just think that he thinks differently and he's not as sociable as many people are. So
he's the key. He's
Tempest,
a key, right?
yeah, and now Tempest is also a big concern of many reviewers, critics, and viewers, and one of our lovely, fantastic viewers, Lady Starfall. And I would say Tempest is somebody that I think we can realize and recognize her slights and her angst, right? Like her anger towards that institution, because that hierarchy within that institution, and this speaks true to the one in which we know would be applicable, Christianity. There's a lot of people in all, but it's not just religion; it's every business, right? Power,
It's any institution where there's power and authority, right? Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, but I think Tempest is. I think she is a little brash, but can you blame her? We are thrown into it quite quick as a viewer. You always have to look at that, like the optics of storytelling is what I always call it. You only see what's on screen. It's a hyper chamber. So we know, like, isolated, that we would agree with her plight in life, right, Johnny? But like just being thrown into it. Now, me personally, and I'm not saying that anybody has an issue with it is like wrong or anything like that, but I agree with it. Like I could see that it feels a little bit rushed because we only know what we've been, we've been privy to.
Yeah, well, no, this is something that I just thought of, and this goes back to Campion getting the hugs and saying that you've never hugged me before. They don't seem to give their kids much affection. And when it comes to Mother stopped her from killing herself. Mother saved her life. Mother, when she could have been doing anything else, made sure her and that baby were okay, and made sure to even comfort her emotionally, trying to relate to what she went through in a sense, even though, Tempest wasn't having any of that. I think you would think she would handle it with a little more maturity because of the time in AI, but everybody's different. Like you were saying, everybody's going to react to things differently, and she's a rebel in every sense.
Yeah.
She's kind of the representation for her, everything that's wrong with that religion.
Yeah, she's showcasing the issue within the institution. Now, Dante has brought up a point. The brains were still active for 13 years during the trip. You would think the experience in the simulation, they would mature naturally. Now, how do you mature, though? What do you stake maturity on? What scale are you grading this on, Dante? Are you grading this on intellect? Meaning we can give you some sort of a standardized like tests like the MEEPs in which we had in high school or the SATs and so forth, or would you do that on social interaction? I think that the ability to measure intelligence is inept. I think it's been proven to be inept. I met some Mensa guys, idiots, most of them. So I think that, what you're saying has validity to it, but at the same time, if you're just able to excel in the way in which we saw Paul excel, he's able to solve that puzzle better, but he is still, you only have the ability to interact with people in real life as much as you can. And you excel socially, and that is different. That is opposed to how you excel intellectually. So I think that those are two different things, and I think that they could be the same thing, but it's been at least depicted to us, in all fairness to this story, as a storyteller myself, they have laid out the blueprint, and Paul was known not to play with other kids, right, Johnny? It's explicitly, it's one of my traits. You've seen some of my shorts. Like, it's one of my traits. It's been explicitly stated. I think it's fair enough. Whether you agree with it or not, it's been stated within that he does not interact with other kids within the simulation. So you can get as good as you can get in algebra, geometry, everything. You know what I mean? Like, but it doesn't really matter.
Stick puzzles.
Yeah. You know, like, it's not socializing. So what are you grading, and what are you actually like measuring them by? Like, the ability to measure intellect is very much so just flawed in general, to be honest. The smartest people in the world will tell you it's flawed.
Yeah.
And how do we know they're the smartest? We don't know. Yeah, because it's flawed. So it goes there. Yeah, it's a paradox. Don't you love it? But it's not a simulation. We'll get to that. But it's a valid point. So a cleric raped her, not an android. No, yeah, I never said it was an android. A cleric is a high-ranking member within the institution. There is Otho, which I posted on Twitter for any of you guys. Spoiler alert, in episode 9, a different Otho is being played. And it is called Super Otho. And he looks like the freaking mountain. So at some point in time, which I love during this episode, we have their whole plot, their whole ploy. We have Space Ragnar. Let's just stick with it. He says Space Ragnar before they're about, because they see Mother get into the hyper chamber, go into the simulation. We'll talk about the space section in a minute. And he says, if I succeed, will you let me free? And I just love to death. Sorry. I love it. He says, you betcha. Right?
Yeah,
like, if there's ever been a clear...
No, wait. Did you notice the Ragnar fingers?
Yes!
When he put it up to her face?
Oh my god, dude. Like, I loved it. Like, that dude doesn't think he's gonna get out at all. Like, he might be a rapist, to your point, Dante, but you want to measure his fucking... He knows, like, he's a rapist, but he's still a fucking, like, probably not an idiot. He's just a scumbag. He's a piece of crap that we all don't mind to get stomped into the ground. But at the same point, he has to know that this is not going good for him, because he goes, yeah, you betcha. Yeah, he goes, you betcha. In his Ragnar way. Like, oh, I love that. I'm like, I love Space Ragnar. But there is a Super Otho, which is played by a bodybuilder I found on Instagram. I hope he doesn't come after me. I don't want to shame him and put him down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he doesn't have that many followers. He's in
YouTube fight video. We'll get that set up.
Yeah,
bare knuckle boxing match.
I'll get him. I'll hit him in his kidneys that probably don't work. But anyways, yeah. So he says, you betcha. And they go after Mother in the simulation. So Mother is going into the simulation. She is expressing a want and a need, right, Johnny? A want for this romantic relationship with, this goes with my theory, people, Campion Sturgis is the mad theologian. Listen, it might not be right. It might probably is, but I still think that this is like this isn't a simulation, but I still think that he is still, and I think there's definitely evidence for this within this simulation, because she asks if anybody else has been there. She asks if there's been a human or an android, and they unknown. And he says to her before the milk, the Ridley Scott trope eat milk sex, which
I thought that was Jergens.
I knew it.
So I've been thinking. I was like, man, they must have a lot of Jergens.
Johnny
set.
Be Crazy, sponsored by Jergens. Gotta have your Jergens. That's
Kleenex.
They needed some, but they say unknown, and he says he's many things. So there's this desire, there's a want, and there's a need. And I truly believe that this dying theologian that's privy to how artificial intelligence works and how a mindset can be changed, Westworlded himself into some AI, or he's actually still alive, and he is like pulling the strings. He is the puppeteer. That is my whole shtick. Come at me.
All right.
Come at me with it.
No, I see where you're coming for, and I'll come with a different approach. This goes into my bigger theory that there's an AI at the center of that planet that is interacting with all of them um, through like a 5G type connection. Because I'm not smart enough to think of a better term right now. So if that can relate to you, can just a
6G.
connection through the air. You can cause hallucinations. Can cause these people to think they're seeing things, but they actually are doing the actions themselves of the hallucination they're seeing. You know, your classic little movie trope, and also your classic hallucination trope. Don't do drugs, kids. That's all I got to say. Uh,
Not the wrong one.
but I, I think that it has been watching her, and it's presenting to everyone what they want to see, what they think it wants them to see. You know,
Yeah.
would Campion say, because I don't think it's Campion for this reason and this reason alone, Justin, because he told her
Campion
that
Sturgis,
humans,
right?
why, yeah, he told her why do you even want to help them? They're just going to destroy themselves over and over and over again. You are the light, they are the darkness. He was like making a bid for her. She is the next thing in evolution that
So it's
humans should die off.
contrary.
And Campion didn't think that. Campion Sturgis actually sent her there to raise the kids. So he would never say that, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
That's a valid point, because in the mission statement, just to be clear, what Johnny's talking about is when she is reprogrammed. Remember, she is built by the Mithraic. He programs her and actually puts her through a test in which she kills a baby. Now, let's remember, there is that chance, and I hate saying it, people, but there is that chance that these memories are not correct. But at the same time, what Johnny's saying is very true, that like she's supposed to save humanity. So that's quite the diversion from that track, right? From that road. That you are the only one that can do this. Like what? So AI Campion had some revelation that things would be different. So yeah, that's a valid point. Unless he saw this coming is keeping her on some arbitrary path to some extent, which I still think is possible, even though it sounds a little bit stupid coming out of my mouth now. But at the same time, I still think that there's some reason in which he puts her on a certain path and sets certain things into action, the same way in which we see Otho being put into a certain path and being spoken to by the soul and then not being spoken to. So I think that they do leave them adrift to a certain extent. But there's definitely, I mean, you can't really argue with your logic there, Johnny. It's like, hey, you got to save humanity. Then the next time she sees them, they have milk sex, and then he goes, "They're all fucked. You're the only one."
And it's a prophecy. The sex as well as a prophecy of what happens when she almost dies, when she gets her eyes stolen. Which, you know, that's a G move, Paul. I kind of want to slap you for doing it, but I don't know why I'm on the Android side right now. Are you human? Are you? But I am. I was. You know, is there a clear bad guy in this? That's what I kind of love about this. There are bad people, right? But a bad
I think there's
group?
bad
Not
ideas.
really. Right, bad ideas. But just because you're on one side or the other doesn't make you awful, and doesn't mean you can't coexist. But there are ones that aren't going to do this. It seems like that Saul, if that's Saul in the middle of the planet, whoever it is, whatever it is, if it's an AI, if it's some kind of supernatural creature, it has a chessboard and it's setting all its pieces into place. And I think what he's doing with most of the humans we have left over here at the settlement, he's going to get rid of the ones that aren't necessary. There's going to be things and events that take place, just like the burning at the rock, or how I think Space Ragnar cut himself. I love Space Ragnar.
Don't we all?
But
isn't this a little bit representative of Westworld season 1? Not to cut you off, of a diversion, right? Like Ford's, you think he's against it, So there are this methodology, and this is what I'm posing. And yes, it fits my original thesis. But if you know me, I'm more of a practical guy. I'm more of a realistic guy, and my theories actually tend to be true. Sorry, they're not that all exciting though. So like, I really think that season 1 forward is applicable to season 1 of which we have season 2 confirmed. Thank God. Thanks, Soul. Love you, Soul. Which is not, we'll talk about it for a minute, but I've linked it in before and I'll link it again. I'm not trying to get all theologian on this. Soul is a real deity that was worshipped throughout many generations, many civilizations and so forth. So it's not, I saw that in the chat earlier. It's not completely abstract or anything like that. But I think that there is some virtue to taking people down one dead end to another. And making them face some hard choices. And Ford definitely does that in season 1, which I consider one of the best, if not the best season of television is season 1, Westworld.
Didn't Ford equate it to an evolutionary bottleneck? We definitely got that same damn thing going on here.
Damn.
And then Tempest was it what's the guy's name, the rapist's name? Is that who is responsible for getting Tempest pregnant?
Yeah, I was going against this. It seems to be just the flow of information seems to be against me. But yeah, it does seem to be what's his name? Super it not Orth. It's not
Ortho.
Yeah, Ortho. It's Otho. There's no R.
Ortho, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry too. Yeah, I forgot it. Yeah, I've done research. I found the bodybuilder.
I try not to remember rapist's name.
Yeah, we try not to. And I've spent. I've really like just spoken about this to great, like to ad in a degree that's ad nauseum. That kill a pedophile. That's fine. We're good with it. Westworld, kill the pedo.
So whatever this god is told him to do that.
Yeah.
Told Campion to kill himself, which we'll get to. Whatever this is the big evil. This is the antagonist. All these other antagonists we're seeing are either temporary or red herring antagonists, in my opinion. And what happens with these kids, I think, is going to happen, at least in season 2. They're setting up stuff for later, right? They have to have this imminent threat.
Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing right now is a lot of people questioning the same thing that we're questioning, because what we see that there is the diversion, the separation between Campion and Paul, right? And then we see mother and father separation, and then we see the Mithraic salt. So when there is the space sex, the milk sex, which I actually didn't have that big of an issue with. I do think that the necromancers and one of my great Patreons here, Bruce, said before, like, he called it out. Props to him, like, because he told me, he's like, did you notice how she waved her hand in front of him at the very, like, in the one of the first 2 episodes, and that comes full force right around. Like, she actually recognized who Marcus is through that. Like, because we were talking about, like, how could they be controlled? Because we're trying to figure out, we're brainstorming in the Patreon over there. We're like, how's this working? Like, what's going on here? Like, how are certain people singing Tali, like, and so forth. And he called it out, like it had significance. And good call on Bruce. Bruce Seymour in the chat. Thank you, brother, for an abundance of things that I can't pay you back for, but no, in a story sense too, like, really, like, he called it out. Like, it was something that I always speak about. I always say nothing's for, like, no reason, right? They don't waste time. And Bruce caught on to that she waved across, and she brings that up, that was scanning his tattoos. And I brought this up slightly, right? Like, a few live streams before, I was like,
because tattoos are more than skin deep.
Yeah, but I brought up the fact of if plastic surgery is so, like, accessible, that they should not take people's word. Because one of the things I want to get to before we get to the big points, and I know we're kind of teasing you guys, but we got to try to keep it linear, is Lucious. I've kind of been about, he's faking it. Like, he's giving them too much room, meaning, like, they're not really voicing enough, like, reason for his concern, meaning they're lying to him clearly, right? He's the one that dad, Caleb, not Marcus, was in control of. He was the captain of it or whatever. And I always said that he's got a bigger play. on hands. And we have now seen that it does seem like I've changed my position because it's a shame about his father. So his father didn't kill an atheist soldier, a child soldier, which Marcus was, right? And she ended up, this Marcus, or this atheist soldier ended up blowing up the Mithraic. Like she ended up, like this ended up being like the folly in her way, or in their way. Meaning like this little girl that was a child soldier, just like Caleb was, who is Marcus now, blew them all up. So like this sympathy, this empathy towards their plight is dangerous. So like I was thinking before, there's no way this guy is like buying this, because like everything they're feeding him seems like bullshit to me. Like, and if he's either an idiot or he's got something going, and it's far more interesting story wise to have something going, right? Like he's not, we don't like, because usually if you have an idiot in a story, and I hate to be this overt about it, but like you'd see him like literally being like jested at. You'd see like, you know what I mean? Like he would be a fool, but he is not shown to be a fool in any way. So, but in this episode, last two episodes, I've come to the conclusion that the ignorance comes in the way of he feels shame for his father and what his father did, right? That's my take. I'm changing my position, is what I'm saying. Like, because I was in the camp, and I've said this every live stream. He's either an idiot, which I don't see, or he's like, got a game that he's playing, and like maybe he's in league with something. Now I really think his shame over his father's deeds, with because a lot of people died. Like this is a sympathy in which they showed this atheist soldier, this child soldier, this female soldier.
He could try to kill Campion.
Yeah. So like, but do you get where I'm going? Like, I think that now.
This is the thing.
Go with it, brother.
He's very strong in his faith, right? This is where I would come back, and faith, just like love, or it'll give you like some rose color. You're seeing life through a different filter.
Yes.
Marcus seems to be the chosen one, chosen by Saul. Somehow he's seen some miracles right before his eyes. He saw that rock burn up the head cleric. What was
Ambrose?
His exact title, but Ambrose. Yeah, he got lit up. He looked like a burnt hot dog when he got done. And there's a few other things that have happened. He's seen his capability on. They were able to capture a necromancer. I mean, that was a very smart idea. So I think he's willing to look past it until now. Now the necromancer has gotten away. Oh, sure, I've got the eyes, but Campion's gonna get those eyes. She's getting the eyes back right when she just needs them. Right? They're gonna be like, oh, we need someone to save us, and then her eyes like roll on the ground and they just pop in her head all of a sudden, and she flies up and saves the day. That's gonna happen.
Well, should we jump to that really quick? Because I kind of went over it. Like, isn't it a big plot point that Marcus sent Paul to get her eyes? Marcus's whole arc is he was a child soldier, guys. Like he was,
he was an atheist.
Yes, he was an atheist. Yes, and he was objectified, and this has deeply scarred him, and this has scarred Sue as well, right? And so, like, these are damaged beings, and for somebody that's damaged, and we've all been damaged. Woe is me, blah blah blah. But at the same time, we would like to protect those who are under our tutelage, right? To not experience those same things. He sends Paul to the line of fire to get those eyes. It works out. But I think that's where we start to see, in this will end, go on to our end point. But Sue is not okay with that. And rightfully so, in my opinion. Like, I loved the fuck out of Space Ragnar, but I hated that. I hated that he did that. Because, I don't know, would you do that? I don't think you would. I'm going to put you on the line, but I wouldn't. Not that it worked out, but you get what I mean. Isn't that a hard call?
Well, it sounds good that I wouldn't, but if he doesn't get those eyes, it may not be a human race. That's how they're looking at it. That might not be the reality, but their perception is everything. You're in a dude with Paul,
like Sue has, right? Because Sue has the inability to be fertile.
Yeah, so that plays a big role. That's her only kid, basically.
Yeah. So the obtaining of Paul is more of a advantageous and more of a motivation for her than it is to Caleb / Marcus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard choice,
think
though. Like, you're a child soldier, Johnny, and then you go send some kid into the jungle with a fucking AK. You know, I mean, like, you're literally doing the same thing in which you are scarred from. It's quite the dilemma, but it does set up what we see, and of course, he gets the eyes, and it works out fine. But we start to see this when. I hate to keep bringing it up, but I actually don't because I love my Patreons. Bruce said, "I love these 2 episodes. The character dynamic, the change within these characters is fantastic." And I watched these 2 episodes. I was messaging right away. I'm like, yes. Like, it really is great because I didn't see this splitting like it did. What we end up happening at the end of these 2 episodes is we have Sue with Campion and Paul versus Marcus, essentially. And Father, of course, is taken captive. Father is taken captive. He is shot down. He was on top of the silo. He tried to protect the children. Mother was tried. They attempted to sacrifice her. We have a very much so, I would say, internal struggle to the deepest of that meaning, within base Ragnar. But at the same time, really, to put it bluntly, we have these believers. We have Marcus thinking he is the savior. He is the prophet. But Paul is also an orphan. They're concealing the fact that they killed his real parents. So for all intents and purposes, Paul is actually still an orphan. Now, I'm going to state my prophecy. Like, actually, I'm going to just do a strong, cemented down stance on this for all of story. Prophecy is always bullshit, and you self-fulfill it. But Paul is an orphan. If you're just going by it's self-fulfilled, I don't think it has to be fulfilled. But I'm just saying that the prophecy, they're withholding from the other people. I'm not saying that it is a real thing to fulfill, but it doesn't matter within that society and that institution that they do fulfill it. You get what I mean? So, like, he's withholding that from them because he thinks, I'm an orphan too. You know, because Marcus is still an orphan, right?
Saul told me that I'd be the king of all this land. No,
yeah, like
that's
he's
exactly what it is. He thinks, spare her and you will be the king of this land. I don't know if that means you're the prophet, man.
So the big question is what is this voice that is speaking to them? Because this is where we end up with. This is where the character dynamic is, and I think at episode 7 out of a 10 episode series, guys, this is the peak in a character arc that you want. This is your darkest before the dawn moment. This is exactly Save the Cat. This is the beat sheet by Snyder. Trust me. This is on fucking point. Like, this better end up good, please, for my own sake and for all of your sake. I want a good story, but I really think it's on the right track because this is your darkest before the dawn. I did not see. I was always predicting the Campion versus Paul, which we got. So good for me. Yay. Pat on the back, blah, blah, blah. Marcus versus Paul is far more intriguing than Sue and Campion. Far more intriguing. Father being reprogrammed, my goodness. With Mother being saved. I mean, come on. We got the change in so many characters for so many reasons. And we have this omniscient force that comes from the falling down the hole. And you had an interesting theory about this with radiation and so forth. Right, Johnny? Like, what is causing this? Because we have something at play. You don't mind. You guys have heard it ad nauseum. I think it's Campion Sturgis. I think it's a mad theologian. I'm sticking with it. But I actually like Johnny's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, all right, I'm going to try to get into this in depth a little bit, but I think there's possibly an artificial intelligence in the center of the planet. There could be radiation and whatnot coming out of that, but whatever falls in that hole is its domain. It's had a chance to scan the bodies, so to speak. What's the little girl that's dead? What's her name? I can't remember.
Tally. I always want to say
Tally, that's it.
but it's Tally.
And
I've called her
they're
both.
seeing her everywhere, but they're whatever it is using it for the heartstrings. But I think this, to put it very simply, without just going on a tangent forever,
No,
that
go
this is
ahead,
almost
because you have a good theory
Skynet
on this.
situation. There was an advanced civilization there on that planet that has went extinct,
Hmm.
and you hear Campion Sturgis talk about how humans kill themselves, a cycle of death, especially for advanced civilizations, war, death, war cycles. Uh, and artificial intelligence wiped out the entire planet, or there was at least some type of extinction event. And, some more people have come there. We've seen that the rapist was affected, but how many other people have been called out from this planet? Uh, you know, this thing could have been communicating through people's dreams for a while. It's a big aspect, but it goes to like an AI god that's basically ruling this realm. Whether it's really God or not, I think that doesn't matter. But what it portrays itself to be is
Take the
this
title away and take
omnipresent.
the ability, and what you're saying is it dictates the events. So whether we call it God or not, I get exactly what you're saying. I think that's a really insightful and important note to take from this. We're preset to say God, right, Johnny? Like you just said, but you like rightfully so. You're like, well, whether it's what we'd consider God or not, but it's dictating events. What do we consider God to be? We need to then we're getting to the depths of philosophy, people. Like, okay, so what is good? What is evil? What is a God? What is a creator? And so forth. But W. Axel Foley has a good theory, and this is a theory that I'm seeing, and I don't hate. I'm gonna be a little bit of a pompous prick about. And I love you, Axel, but this is one that I've been seeing amongst us philosophers, that the planet is alive.
The fetuses. Hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I wanna
No,
hear
it's
what
not a
Axel has
bad
to say.
one, man. Like, what do you think about this? Read it out, Johnny. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it, but want to know what? I don't like it so much that it could be right.
So you're saying they're eating a planet when they killed that little planet baby? Is that what you're saying?
That's what he's saying. This is a general narrative. This is one of the there's either the idiot theory of it's all simulation, which always ends in you're wrong. Thank you. And then there is the theory of the like out of that pentagram or the vibe sided. Like there's I don't disagree with the second one, the one that I'm trying to voice. It's that there is artificial intelligence, and that kind of goes with my mad theologian theory as well, that actual structure in which they came upon that set Ambrose on fire, blah blah blah, they're trying to get into, is like some sort of there's like this internal spirit, voice, intelligence, call it what you may, within Kepler 22 is what Axel is saying, and I can't disagree with him. I'm not agreeing with him either, though. I will say it's far more likely, though. I think Campion Sturgis is behind that, though.
Um,
He says the monsters are the child fetuses they threw down the hole. So, like the pork monsters. Have you ever seen Rock Lobster?
that's possible.
By the
But how many
B-52s?
are there? And yeah, there'd have to be only 6,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. There would have to be only a few. I think there are more than that. I think they're a nocturnal species of animal that's just a scavenger type animal. And I think that's what's left of the race before the extinction event.
But
That's like what's left.
there is a common occurrence. We talked about this before, Johnny, that neither I nor God or nor any idiot simulation theory could come about, and it is those who fall down that hole become a part of this ploy.
Mm-hmm.
So that hole is a common
Be them.
thread.
Yeah.
So whatever goes down that hole becomes a part of this ploy. So that hole, the medium is the message, just like the well in the middle of the village that brings water is more important than the village, blah, blah, blah. Canadian logic. But yeah, I actually agree with Axel to an extent. Axel, as I always will, to only an extent. But no, I think there's something to that. I actually think that. Like, I think that there is something to it. But how much do we want to think? So I guess the big question is, guys, my point of view is when they came to Kepler 22, Campion Sturgis, the mad theologian, Dr. Ford of this story, is putting this in place. Axel's thesis, which, let's remember, W. Axel Foley podcasts about fucking everything in the world, and he's not a dumb guy. Like, he's a very, very smart guy. Like, very smart and very kind as well, and doesn't actually like craft too many theories. So like you should respect what he says, because like he probably came to it organically. He didn't read it anywhere. So his thesis is it's all coming and being created organically, meaning like it's coming from this planet, and this planet has like a intelligence. I'm saying that they came there and it was pre-existing, it was predisposed, like meaning like Campion like set it up all before. Like I'm just kind of making this very bland, and get what I mean.
I actually like it, and I really appreciate Axel looking at it that way. That's actually really cool when you think about it. I think the only thing that goes against it would be when a regular dead body goes down that hole, they come back as a ghost. And instead of a fetus dead body, why would it come back as a monster? Because the fetus weren't alive. So in theory, you could put a regular dead body down there and get something back up the hole, right?
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything else other than those things yet, other than bones. And not saying you're not right, Axel, because I think that's really interesting.
I just told him to go fuck himself. I love him.
See something else to correlate with that as well. I think we would have gotten a little like more of a hint. I know there's something down there. And it could be crazy. I mean, maybe we will see something else come back,
But
one little girl turned into the ring, so
Yeah, that's what I really like about Axel's theory. Even though I told him to go fuck himself as a joke, and he knows what I mean. No, Axel like truly is like he's not a guy that's like. Because listen, here's it's like when you hear somebody's like story, and you find out they're not writing a book about it. That's how I look about like people like Axel, because Axel is like a very prominent podcaster and so forth, and but he's also an intellectual man and knows a lot about stories. So he's not looking to benefit. He's not posting this on his. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, or they do, but they don't use it. But you get what I mean, Johnny. You know what I mean. Like he's not like hoisting this. He's not shilling this. Like this is a legit theory, and I kind of like it because it falls in between most of the good theories, right?
And Axel, I definitely think the planet is driving the story.
So like what is this planet that is like, how could that be? So like what I like about what Axel's doing is he's connecting this thread of falling down the hole, right? And then he's seeing what comes up from the hole, which is pork monsters. Please imagine Rock Lobster by B-52.
Oh yeah, long pig.
Yeah,
that's humans taste like pigs. Okay, let's just get that out there.
Yeah, Johnny told me this before. I didn't know, but I love it.
Tribes, they call it long pig. Now, like whether it's organic or AI, I think that is the question here. And Axel's going organic. I would point more toward AI, just for the simple fact that it seems to favor mother. It seems to favor AI a little more than it does humans. It's hard to tell right now, but that's the vibe I'm getting right now. It could change at any time.
Yeah. His theory is stronger than mine though right now. Like in all seriousness, like my Campion Sturgis mad theologian, W. Axel Foley's theory falls within the constraints of like relevance, meaning like it doesn't like take anything we've seen and throw it out the window. It actually makes a lot of sense out of it. Because a big complaint that I'm seeing is that they're having Tully come from nowhere. And she can just do whatever, and there's no limits, and it's space ghosts, and it's all this horror that's being injected. And I honestly think they have a plan.
Seeing that in their mind, and they're playing that out themselves.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're playing out what the ghost is doing in front of them, and this AI is interfering with their brains through, radio waves or whatever waves they're using to go through. I'm no tech whiz. Look at this face, this forehead. It's a good satellite, but I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah, Johnny means to say he's had sex. So yeah, he doesn't know all that much about computers. Go to another channel for a person that knows the password to get into your Texas Roadhouse schedule, and they'll act like they're a hacker. But besides that, talking about relevant things. Yeah, things that actually are true. No, but I actually really like that because I've seen this a lot. And I'm gonna give a shout out to a channel that I actually have not had. One of the things I pride myself on is like connections and collabs. And it, Take One, I believe is the name of the channel. The gentleman does that. I'd have no contact with. I just reached out to him like a few days ago. We'll see. But he has some really good theories, but they're around what Axel's saying. Like, they're a little bit broad. And I'm not talking shit whatsoever. I'm saying I really like this guy. He's actually only a little bit bigger than me, from what they say. Yeah, he's only like, he's around the same channel size and so forth. So he kind of talks about this of the general intelligence, right, Johnny? Like coming from like this planet Kepler. And I think that Axel goes a little bit in depth more to like pinpoint it, which makes a little bit more sense because it connects the common thread. So I really appreciate that. And again, I really do look at people's theories. Like if somebody posts a theory about a simulation theory that gets, which we all know, 100,000 views, and they're like, oh yeah, that's what's happening. And it's never, guys. Only in a simulation would that happen. They would need a simulation to actually be happening within the simulation to actually make that real. But no, like that's a pretty intelligent thing. I'm gonna disagree with you still, Axel, and say it's Campion Sturgis going at it. But yeah, I think there's a little bit more depth to what you're saying, meaning he's saying that the actual holes have a connection, meaning the radiation, transposing the kids, but also the necromancers are said to being able to make you see things, right? And feel things. These are the abilities of Mother. Mother's abilities are very much so like on the table. Like I don't know if we know the limits of them. I would hope we'd know by now, because I will critique the series if they pull out a few, tricks out of their pocket, right? Like right now we've seen enough. Like Tully, the picture from Tally in the guise of Tally that is on the cave wall, which is a Mithraic tradition within an egg, within a shell. All the actual archaeological digs have shown this. I'll link it again. But yeah, I think that what we see here is a pretty common narrative on, this Mithraic cult being a I don't want to say myth, but I just want to say they call it a cult for a reason. They don't respect it. So there's a lot to be said about it. A lot to be speculated. It's open for speculation.
Yeah, they had these semi-underground temples. When I say underground, I don't mean like a long ways underground, but it was underground.
Isn't it hard to explain? It's hard to explain, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It calls back to the tunnels, and they're talking about, so why did the monsters only show up when the religious group arrived? Well, the spaceship did kind of cause some interference. I don't know. It could be organic, like Axel said. Even it could be AI that manipulated the DNA of what was put in there and made its own shit. For all we know, we got to remember them eating the mushrooms as well. But I think the crash woke something up a little more. We'll see what happens with that. But I think that really, after the crash, this is when you start getting a lot of the supernatural shit happening. I think whatever was there was awoken at that point, because I don't think anything really supernatural happened before the crash.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything.
Well, we see a clear depiction of dinosaur bones, right? Fossils.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go by our scientific biological evolution, we would come to the same conclusion that there should be life on this virgin planet, which kind of discredits the virgin planet. But at the same time, what I've seen at the end of this episode is very intriguing to me. And this is going to be one of my last questions to you, Johnny, into the chat. Do we think that Sue and Campion will take on Marcus in Space Ragnar, in Paul to an extent, even though they're competing, but I think he'll keep him close Do you think that we're going to see it? I think that's where we're headed. I think we're going to a divide within the faith. In my original thesis was we would see the tropical zone before this. I think we will end this season in episode 10, seeing the tropical zone. Lost, Axel. Yeah, baby. Give me a yeah, baby. You know you love it. You gotta love that whole reveal at the end. I truly think it will have like the others, and can't remember. I just started watching
Episode 10 is the weekend at Bernie's episode.
Yeah. But you get what I mean. Like, I didn't think the division would come to then, but I actually am very excited that it's right.
Yeah, I mean, the pace is really fucking good in this show. Like, this is one of the best paced shows I've seen in a while. It keeps going. There's not really a boring moment. There's not many lulls here. And were you saying like Sue and
Campion are obviously like their ideology is within
right.
Yeah, like they're agreeing. Like she's loving what Campion's doing. But mother and father are a little bit out there. Like that's like those wild cards up there because we've seen mother also during her like execution per se. She's like a little bit pandering, in my opinion. We were always equal. You were always my equal. Like that's not the dynamic between those two. They were not equals during their actual existence. They weren't. I'm sorry, father. I love you as an actor, but you were not her equal. Like she explicitly stated it. Watch any of my animated shorts. You have the privilege / sacrifice of being one of my Patreons. If you've seen them, if it's explicitly stated, it's stated. But it is stated, right? Like I know your limitations. So like she's pandering a little bit. She's a little bit worried for her life, and she's pandering to him, and she does get saved by father. So I think that we're seeing a divide. I think that Marcus is going to keep Paul close. I think that Campion and Sue might go to the other side. I think we're seeing a separation, and the battle in which we thought we'd see is not the battle.
I think Sue is going to get killed by Marcus based on the flash, that dream he had.
Yeah.
If it was given from Saul of when he stabbed the scalpel that mother had made that he had never seen before into her neck, and he's already been kind of thinking about this, and she's showing defiance against him. I think this will cause Tempest and Campion to flee, maybe be exiled. We could have an exile situation here. Campion is so loyal to mother. He's going to know mother's still out there. What's going to happen to father? They're probably going to just completely decommission father, right? You think they're going to try to fix him again so he could fuck up? Probably not. It's hard, in a survival situation, you do want that android, but can you take a chance of it messing up again like that in a critical situation? There's going to be something to push them away. We're going to have two separate camps. Campion there may be only one of these groups that get to the tropical zone. There could be this weird, I feel like we're going to get a time jump at some point, right? We're going to have cities, and it'd probably be between seasons or something, blah, blah. Justin's going to hate it, but I feel like that's
No, I like it, but I don't want it this season. I think that we should stay linear. I think that a 10-year, because Tempest, it was really interesting, sorry to intrude, that you said this is very valid. Tempest is the future, right? She's the one going to carry this humanity forward.
She's Eve or Mary. You could even call her Mary.
Call her whatever you want, people. She is the furtherment of your society. So, yeah, no, that's a very valid point. So whoever controls Tempest controls humanity. So that's very valid right there. So I think that we will see.
And they don't know she's pregnant.
Yeah, she's been concealing.
Hunter does.
Ooh, so that's what that is right there, people. That's where that happens, right? That is the catalyst right there. In a final moment, sacrifice or non-sacrifice, Tempest changes the dynamic of any given situation because she is the furtherment of humanity. Johnny be crazy. I knew I asked you on for a reason. Well, I don't have to be convinced anymore, but you know what I mean. Yeah, no, that's a very valid point. Yeah, I think the Tempest is going to be that she literally holds the egg to humanity, my friend. The I to the U.
Oh, yeah, get all your eggs in a basket and go watch Raised by Wolves.
No, it really is good though, right? Like I wouldn't say it's better than Westworld season 1, but it's definitely better than Westworld season 3. And we've seen a number of writers on it.
It's better than Westworld season 1.
Yeah, nothing is. Westworld season 1 is one of the best seasons of television. So I want to thank everybody. We've got a few. Let's see if we missed anything that we could go. Gonna leave the stream over. Starfall, what do you want? Marcus and Sue will be found at Campion. Oh, we'll do something. Listen, here's what I'm gonna say, Lady Starfall, because I don't want you to feel like you don't watch this for any reason. It's the questions in which we ask that mean something. We don't have answers. This series is likely not going to have answers. It's most likely going to lay somewhere between the faith and science. It's not going to give you absolutes. That's not the type of series this is. And I could really bite down and really go one way or another, but I honestly don't feel that way. And I know you're an intelligent person, and I hope that you feel like this is so fun to speculate about. And I think that at this stage of life, at least for me, questions are far more intriguing, right? Than the answers are.
Yeah.
These questions.
I do think, of course, Marcus is going to get found out. You know, they're definitely going to get found out at some point. That's got to happen, but yeah.
You're going to get answers, and you should get thematic answers, meaning like what Johnny just said, Marcus, his situation gets found out. But I mean, we're literally dealing with, is there a logical reason to believe in a higher power or just believe in what's in front of us? Good fucking luck on answering that one. Like anybody, like this series, just like Westworld, like they're never going to answer that. They're never going to do it. Now, Tally, I feel like we should get some answer at the end of this season on what's sending her, whether it's WXO Follies, did Johnny be crazy? Or answer C, Justin Thomas's answer, the Mad Theologian.
It's not Tally. Let's just say that. That's a demon, if it's anything.
But who sent the demon? Yeah, no, but those are answers that those are answers you should get. Like, in all fairness, like, yeah, for sure. But there's deeper, like, those are things that those questions lead to deeper, meaning. I think that this is one of the best series that's come along. It's one of the things I really enjoy. I love all of you guys. I love you, Johnny. You're a good man. WXO Foley, the podcaster, the pod father.
You know how Axel makes kids now, so that's a good thing.
It is good. Dude,
just throw him in a pit.
Do you know how tall he is?
It's even better.
Like, we met. Like, if we ever meet you, he's like 7 feet tall, bro. Like, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, I've not met him, but
I have to cut his Achilles.
I know. Yeah, he's gonna intimidate us when we finally meet. Like, me and Johnny have met in person for context. Axel is like one of my closest friends on here as well, but I've never met him. But I know he's unusually tall for the profession, so we tend to keep it around 6 foot. Axel, get with the regiment there. But Axel's a good guy. Good luck out there in Portland. If we have to range an assault here, out there on the west, my friend, you got it.
Tall guys have to watch where they. Never mind.
I'll see you on the battlefield, Johnny. No. Thank you guys so much. This is an excellent series. I'm so happy to be back with my excellent friend and my excellent friends in the chat. So we will play you out, and we will see you soon. And we'll be talking about Dance of Dragons tomorrow around 2 p.m. on Gray Area's channel. Check it out. Make sure to subscribe.
The new world